Hi, Mrs. Jeffers here. Today we are talking about an extremely important message, and that is that we should always be kind. I want you to think about that for a moment. What does it mean to be kind? What does that look like to you? I'm going to read you a very special story called The Invisible Boy. And as I'm reading it, I want you to think about what that word kindness might look like. The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig, illustrated by Patrice Barton. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first. Then the best friends of the best players. Then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everyone did except Brian. He wasn't invited. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. The what? Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? Ugh. And all the kids laugh. All of them, that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian, yum. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Yeah. Thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asked the kids to team up in twos or threes for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio, let him work with us. Okay, I guess. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think would live in houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. Look at them working together, so nice. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian, Justin, he hears someone shout, "Hey, Brian, over here." Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at their table. "Cookie? Thanks." Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. So are there kids in your class, your grade, our school, who you see maybe being treated as if they are invisible? If yes, what do you think you could do to make them feel more valued and appreciated? I have a little activity that I want to show you. And so this is an egg. And I attempted to draw our invisible boy Brian on the egg. And then I also have here a glass of water. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Brian, our egg, in the water. And you will see that he sinks right to the bottom of the cup because he's feeling sad and lonely, invisible. And so when we're feeling those kind of things, we kind of are sunk, we're down. And we feel like no one maybe cares about us. No one even notices us. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take Brian out of this glass of water and I'm going to show you our kindness. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that same glass of water and we are going to sprinkle some kindness into it and see if anything changes. Now, I want you to think, what are some things that we can do to sprinkle kindness? Could we do what Justin and Emilio did and include them to work with you? You see someone, maybe all alone, could you ask them to join you? Can you make sure that no one is left out of the kickball game, for example? We don't have enough players. We're always welcome to join one more. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more because you can never have enough kindness. All right, so we are sprinkling this kindness into our cup. Let's see what happens when we add Brian now, once we've done all those kind things. I know it's a little hard to see, but do you see that Brian has been lifted up? He is not at the bottom anymore. He is floating right on top because all of our kindness has brought him up. So he felt included. He went from being those black and white pictures at the beginning to finally being in color. So what can you do at our school to color our world with kindness? next Friday, November 13th, is something called World Kindness Day. And so what we want you to do is practice some of the things that we learned today through the story or through the video of things we can do to spread kindness all over the world, not only this week, but especially on Friday the 13th. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a little kindness tic-tac-toe game. And so your teacher will share this board game with you. There's actually a few different versions, which is kind of cool. And so if you're here, brick and mortar, you're gonna get a paper copy. If you are working on live, your teacher will give you a digital copy. And as you complete the kind acts on the card, you may color in the picture or mark it with an X or an O. Your job is to complete at least 3 kind acts in a row. It's up to you which row, or you can do horizontal, you can do vertical, you can even do a diagonal. It's totally up to you which kind acts you want to do, but in order to get a tic-tac-toe, you must do at least 3 in a row. Once you have done that, at the bottom of the paper, it's very important that you write your first and last name as well as your teacher's name, and you can turn it back into me. If it's paper, you can send it to me electronically. If you're home at live, screenshot it, take a picture of it, send it to me. These are due to me on Monday, the 16th by 9 a.m. And that day I'm going to put all the entries together and we're going to choose a couple winners for our World Kindness Day drawing. So I hope that you have a fun time this week spreading kindness. And who knows, maybe you will really make a difference in someone's life like Emilio and Justin did for Brian, or you might be able to spread a little color in someone's world like we saw in the video. Have fun spreading kindness. I will see you soon.